Welcome back. We are ready to talk about element of art number 4, which for us is going to be space. Grab your element of art palette and we're going to be talking about this splotch right up here to the left of color. So join me on the other camera and we'll take a look. Today we're going to be dealing with this top left-hand corner to the left of the color splotch and above the value and the texture. At this point, we've completed 3 of the elements, so this is number 4. So hey, this marks the halfway point. Now, the first thing I want you to do before you forget is to actually label this space. Once you've done that, next it's time to decide how and what image you're going to choose to fill this space. I'm going to ask you to take inspiration from one of the slides that I showed in the presentation. And if you want to go back and look through the presentation, that is available for you under the assignment posting for the Space Splotch on the Google Classroom. Now, the slide that I specifically want you to think about is this one with the 2 geckos. And I think this is a great way to approach demonstrating positive and negative space. So if you think about this gecko, remember that negative space doesn't necessarily have to be black, but in the case of these 2, it is black, but you can feel free to use any color that you want to represent the negative space. So in this image, the gecko is itself the negative space, and the space around it has been filled in with all sorts of doodles and patterns and line work, and this represents the positive space. As you can see on the other side, that's been reversed. Here, the gecko is shown in the positive with doodles and the little drawings representing that. And then the space around the gecko that is left sort of blank and untouched is the negative space. So I want you to think of a simple pattern that will work for this. It doesn't have to be quite this cutout, but something similar along those lines. And as you can see, I've done sort of the same idea, although it's a little bit differently. To be honest, this is my least favorite splotch on my example piece. And at some point, I'd like to go back and redo this and do it a little differently. But what I've chosen to do, you guys all know that I love cats. So I've taken an image of a cat and I've sort of split the cat in half. I've shown it by one half of the cat showing his face in negative space with the positive behind the cat. And then on the other side, I've done the opposite. The cat's face is in the positive with all the squiggles, and then the negative space is around him. So whatever you choose to do, and again, I would choose something that looks more like this than how I've done it. Just make sure that you then label the blank space negative and the filled in doodly part positive. Now, if you're struggling to come up with some ways to fill this space, I do have a reference for you also under the same Space Splotch posting. And this is, if you can see it, a Zentangle pattern sheet that a former student of mine, Anna Lally, developed years ago. And she did a lovely job, so I've hung on to it. So this is posted for you if you're trying to think of ways creatively to fill the space. But the door is open to you. Maybe you want to go back and reference the texture sheet, which is still under the posting for texture. Maybe you want to take inspiration from elsewhere, and that is just fine. Things not to do. Do not. And I will give this back to you and say, do it again. Do not give me a yin and yang symbol. You all can be more creative than that. Make this complex. Take some sort of figure or some sort of shape. Also, no-nos are doing something just as simplistic as a yin and yang. So no like box on one side and box on the other. Make it interesting, all right? So I think that's about all you need to know. As usual, if you have any questions, just ask.